Hey, this is Kyle Aber, the voice of Gohan on Dragon Ball Z, as well as Ryu in Street Fighter, and you are listening to Dragon Wagon Radio. Hadouken!
In a mythical land of magic beasts and blades known as Burbank, California, an independent podcast network sets off for the greatest adventure of their pitiful lives. This is Dungeons and Dragon Wagon.
Hello and welcome to Dungeons and Dragon Wagon, the Rhyme or Reason, a D&D inspired homebrew role-playing game recorded and released out into the world for your entertainment, and we do hope that you are entertained. Please listen to our show in whichever way you find the most enjoyable, but with that said, we prefer you listen to it in headphones. Their podcast is definitely more immersive, and you get to hear all of the special magic that you might not hear in a car when you're listening in some nice cans. Yeah, some cans. We're going to use some lingo.
Wow.
My name, of course, is Jake Lloyd. I am an actor and filmmaker and host of podcasts like Elaborate and What the Heckonomics. Find me on Twitter at LiquidJake, on Instagram at Jake Lloyd. And I am playing the half-orc fighter named Junk. Say hi, Junk.
Hey, Jake.
Junk, I have to say, I am enjoying your vigor lately.
Well, thank you very much. You look very studly yourself.
I don't think that you know what that meant. But I am not here alone because nobody wants to hear that. I, of course, have my associates in adventure to my left. She is a writer, a poet, and a friend to the animals. Find her on Twitter and Instagram at Alexandra Hoy. It's Alexandra Hoy.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Ooh, you got all Frenchy on me.
Comment ça va?
Oh my God. You speak French every now and then. I forget. And what? You did a Paquito sign to me.
Un peu.
See what I did there? Not French. Alexandra is playing the human ranger Adeline. Say hi, Adeline.
Hey.
Adeline, I feel like you're really in love with charm arrows.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Ever since I charmed that, what was his name? The bird guy of Asteria's.
You're still drunk, aren't you?
Hank.
Hank, yeah. Ever since I charmed Hank, well, the zombie Hank, it was, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty into this. I kind of want to use one on one of my party members just to see what happens.
Whoa.
Scandalous. And to her left is the man with no foe. He is a writer and director, and he is as tall as he is excited about seeing the new Dragon Ball Z movie. Find him on Twitter at Matt_Hingstman and on Instagram at mHingstman. It's Matt Hingstman.
Hello. I'm going to try to go right after we're done here today.
Oh,
Sweet.
yeah, you are. You're a real Dragon Balls. You know what I'm going to do in this episode?
What's that?
I am going to have Kyle Aber do the Dragon Wagon stinger at the beginning of this episode.
Oh.
Listeners will have already heard it, and they will now go like, oh, he tied it all together, but you didn't hear it. Because Kyle Aber, the voice of Johan, or is that his name?
Gohan.
Johan.
He's Danish.
Sebastian Bach?
Yeah, he was on a podcast here in Dragon Wagon Radio, and we had him do some stingers.
That's
He's also
great.
the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, especially
It
me
kind
until he
of
told me.
matches since they both do the energy blast.
Oh, really? See? Bringing it all back together like a true fucking nerd. Matt, of course, is playing the Shadow Elf Rogue Matson. Say hi, Matson.
Hi.
Matson, I feel like we're a little testy with our most recent guest.
I think within reason.
All right. And with that said, returning once again, our guest of Quest. She is an actress, improviser, producer, host, and role player. You may know her from Saving Throw or Geek and Sundry, Team Alpha. She is everywhere, including on Twitter and Instagram at Havana Rama and on twitch.com/Vanna.
Twitch.tv.
Twitch.tv/Vanna. It's Havana Mahoney.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we welcome it. I'm personally invested in your character, and I look forward to seeing where this goes. What did you feel about our first outing?
I thought it was really interesting. There is as many trust issues in this party as I have in my own life, so I feel like I'm really connecting.
You know what? That is real talk right there.
Accurate.
That is the wrong podcast.
Gotta elaborate.
Yeah, exactly. And with that said, I'm going to hand the reins over to the creator of these lands. He is our almighty god of Rhymore. He is an actor, improviser, writer, and host of Myth Understood. Find him on Instagram at the Paul Bianchi. It is the Paul Bianchi.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Oh,
Oh, you're stealing her French thing.
Well, that's as far as I can go. And there's just one time I was in a friend's French project in high school, and they had me. They're like, you don't have to know what you're saying. We'll just like write it out phonetically, for you. And but I was taking German at the same time, and I just remember like my beginning line, like "les potates," and they were just like, "You sound awful. What the hell are you saying?" So not good at French. Well, I'm thrilled to dive back into chapter 8.2, Whispers in the Dark.
Ooh.
And away we go. Centuries ago, there lived an elf named Shaline. So proficient in magic was she that plants grew at her touch, sick and injured were healed, and the ravages of age hadn't the strength to touch her. The people called her Rasa, an old Sibylian word for Earth Mother, for she was beloved. When the sorcerers waged war in Rymor, wielding their great power to such devastation, Shaline knew it was up to her and the giant men, the Sky Tillers, to defend their home. But then, the first Sky Tiller fell, Temu, the Merciful. And Shaline felt that her softer virtues would be a liability in battle. She enacted a spell that would rid herself of all perceived weakness. She gathered strength in her sacred animals, those in great abundance in Rymor, rabbits, squirrels, and ants. And in the spell's wake, she emerged as Rasa, the embodiment of nature, for all its beauty and for all its cruelty. What remained was her shadow, Dark Shaline, whispering in the dark with words few could stop to hear. Rin tells the party the story as she leads them through the end of the Narrows, aptly named for the high twisting cliff faces on either side. It's been 4 days since abandoning the raft to travel west into the wilderness. In the distance, you can hear the rushing of a waterfall, and you know the path has nearly led you to your destination.
that's fascinating. We were told that Dark Shaline and Rasa were sisters.
I mean, I suppose that's definitely one way to put it.
Wow. Well, if Rasa and Dark Shaline are two halves of the same being, there must be a way to reunite them, no?
That's actually a really good idea, Adeline. Rin, is there any way that Dark Shaline could tell you if that's something that's possible?
I haven't heard her in weeks and weeks because as soon as I broke my vow of silence, albeit by her permission, I could no longer hear her voice. When we talk, when we speak, it clouds our minds and blocks us from her connection, and it's just not possible anymore, and I don't know if it ever will be again.
Do you miss her?
I do miss her. I've been beholden to her from a very young age. It's like somebody you speak to all the time, guiding your hand at every moment, leading your life with great purpose, and suddenly they're gone. And it's one thing to learn again how to speak, but a completely other thing to learn again how to live by one's own decisions and directions and purposes.
Hearing how Rin feels about Dark Shaline, Junk can't help but be reminded a little bit of his mother and what it was like to lose his mother after being his sole guider. And in this moment, he empathizes with her and he feels a kinship. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge of Rasa and Dark Shaline with us very much. Your stories are incredible, but I can't help but notice you've not once mentioned Janessa.
Yeah, it's a very odd thing that I do not want to speak about somebody I love with the person that murdered her. Very strange indeed. Pardon my silence.
Junk nods acceptingly and cautiously.
And upon this, the narrow canyon opens up slightly to a small pond. Directly beyond it, a tall waterfall cascades into said pond from a towering cliff face.
This looks like a dead end to me.
No, Matson, it's called a waterfall.
Junk, you're the best.
Ah, thanks, buddy.
So Ren sees the waterfall and the scenario of the dead end and tries to get a better idea of what the actual lay of the land is here. And that's a 9.
Consulting her map and then looking back to the waterfall, Rin's convinced that she has gone the correct way. It becomes clear to Rin that perhaps the only way to move forward is to pass beneath the waterfall.
I think we're going to have to pass through it.
Junk, in an attempt to impress Rin with his initiative, walks steadfast into the waterfall.
Oh, this will be good. Then we'll see if he dies, and we'll know if it's safe or not.
Stepping towards and into the pond, Junk discovers that there is a stone walkway beneath ankle-deep water leading towards the waterfall. And when he passes through, he's pleased to find a dark cave with daylight pouring in from the other side.
There's a way through here, guys. It's fine.
Unfortunately, the party can't hear you because of the deafening roar of water.
What was that, Junk?
Junk, realizing that they can't hear him, is about to head back through, but he stops himself and his eyes go wide with what he thinks is a brilliant idea. He brings his hand up to his throat, mimicking how Fenfarrell used his voice projection magic, and super confidently restates, "It's perfectly fine. Just come on through."
Yeah, the party still can't hear you.
He's dumbfounded, so he just punches his fist through the waterfall and gives a thumbs up to the group.
I turned to Ren and said, "Oh, that means we can go in."
Well, unless it's an enemy holding his severed fist through the waterfall.
Well,
Very paranoid, Horny. But I like how you're thinking. Adeline just walks through.
Yeah, and you join him on the other side.
Rin takes the opportunity to take just a quick shower. Rinse off a little bit.
Junk, noticing her rinsing off, is trying not to look directly at Rin as she does this, but he finds himself a little bit enamored, thinking, she's actually quite beautiful under all that dirt.
On the other side, after that very brisk natural shower and a short tunnel of a cave, you find a lightly forested snowy area. These tall evergreens are the first indication of the colder climate in South Rymor. Directly ahead, nearly buried in overgrowth, is a white stone temple. It's short and built into a hillside with a rounded dome for a roof and a pair of pillars on either side of its dark entryway.
As Junk begins to feel the snow under his feet and the air even more chilly, he looks back to Rin, noticing she's still just wearing her thin traveler's cloak. And so he lifts up his pauldron and pulls the wolf pelt off that he's been using to keep himself warm, and extends it out to her as if to say, "Here, put this on."
It is very wet since you just walked beneath the waterfall.
He shakes it.
And it's also fairly rank, but it is warm.
Aww.
And in fact, your body heat makes it steam in the air.
Rin eyes him up and down and looks at the cloak and sniffs the air.
It's cold.
Listen, I appreciate the sentiment. I know you're trying to make up for murdering the love of my life, but this is not how that happens.
I'm just trying to help. And he throws it back over his shoulder.
In the periphery, in the trees, there is movement. A very large, slow-moving creature, but it doesn't seem to be posing any immediate danger.
Adeline, do you see that?
I do. I'm going to roll perception to see if I can get a clearer look. She gets on her tiptoes. 8?
Yeah, Adeline can see enough through the trees to make out a few key details. It's about 8 feet tall and stands on its hind legs. It has snow-white fur, claws, long jackrabbit ears, and a pair of short antlers. Orny takes a look at this as well. That over there is a dread, dire-horned rabbit. Let's be quiet. Let's not engage with it. They can be vicious when attacked, but I don't believe it means us any harm.
If we're worried about warmth, I'm sure that creature's fur would provide warmth enough for all of us.
It's an endangered species.
How would you know? Where's that registry?
It was in the Kelbana Temple in Shell's Landing.
Until
it was destroyed.
Oh.
Yeah, lots of things got burned. It was really sad.
Well, let's just leave it undisturbed and proceed quietly. Adeline moves forward cautiously.
Is that the temple up ahead?
It looks like it should be. Is that what it says on your map?
Once we're through the waterfall, it should be only a short journey straight ahead, yes.
Matson walks beside Adeline and quietly says to her, "Hey, remind me, how was entering this temple aiding us in our quest?"
Well, Rin clearly knows what she's talking about. And as dangerous as the gnomes are at the moment, Rasa is a blight on this land. So, I don't know, ultimately, this is for Junk. He hasn't been the same since Mystic Cross, and we have to do this for him.
This isn't helping us get to Brayfrost any faster, so I hope he finds what he's looking for.
Yeah, it might not be what he's looking for, but Junk does find something. A small piece of metal glistens in the snow a few meters ahead.
Junk, noticing it, walks towards it and looks down to examine it further.
Yeah, it's a badge shaped like an upward pointed fang. Junk recognizes it immediately as Orcan in design. Warlords, such as the ones who raided his village, earned badges like this for displays of battle acumen.
Junk growls to himself as he reaches down and picks it up. He holds it, examining it closer.
You get a sense from holding it that it would increase a certain ability that you have if you were to wear it.
So Adeline comes up behind him and she puts her hand on his shoulder. Junk, what is that?
I'm not exactly sure, but it gives me a weird feeling. It feels good. But it's definitely Orcan. So Junk cusps it between his hands from each side and is going to attempt to break it.
Adeline puts both of her hands on top of his to suggest not to do that. Junk, do you remember what Fenferl said? That Orcan side of you, it's a part of you, and I don't think it's always bad. You know, if this is going to help you, why not embrace it?
Junk looks to Adeline, acknowledging Fenferl's words. He remembers what happened in the moonwalk. And after a moment of hesitation, he picks up a little snow in an attempt to clean the badge off with it best he can, and eventually he attaches the badge to the strap of his pauldron.
Wearing this badge decreases Junk's rest time for his Rage Wind special attack.
Oh.
Instead of waiting a whole turn, he will wait a half turn and jump up in the initiative order for his next attack.
Nice. Let's keep going.
Looking further ahead, the party finds the skeletal remains of a stag. And as you approach, Matsun feels the presence of the glowing orange spirit he has come to know. She flits from your body and puts her hand out, bidding you to wait. Then she approaches the skeleton and crouches. She holds out an open palm to the woods to the east. And in a moment, the translucent spirit of a stag trots out from the woods.
Okay, that's a new one.
What is she doing?
I have no idea.
Wait, who is she?
Oh, that's Matsun's ghost lady friend.
Yeah, she's a friend. It's a long story. She helps when we need it, just sort of shows up whenever she wants.
She's like that. The spirit has stood to greet the stag. It meets her hand with its muzzle, sniffing her curiously. Then, after she's earned its trust, she delicately places her hand on its throat. A glow appears on the stag's vocal cords, and then Matsun's spirit vanishes. The stag then, surprisingly, turns to speak to you. Oh, hello.
Hello.
You're pretty.
Thank you. I assume you're referring to my spiritual form.
Oh, what are you? Or who are you?
My name is Chance.
Chance, what can we do for you?
That's a complicated question. You see, people like yourself haven't been to Rasa's Sanctum for decades. My mistress Shaline, she first came to this place oh so long ago.
Shaline was your mistress?
Yes. I was her familiar, her most beloved heart. And after her change, she allowed me to die.
She allowed you to die. Were you in pain?
Yes, I was. I was torn apart by her children. The ones like you.
He says this looking at Junk.
Oh, Orcans.
I'm no child of Rasa.
Oh, but you are. When the sorcerers came from the north, they brought with them sylphs and nereids and nymphs. Delicate creatures, elements made into human form. You can still find them wafting throughout Rymor, directionless without their masters. Rasa had no army to combat them, so she raised her own out of the Sansi swamps, hearty and full of rage. She called them the Orcans.
Junk is a bit taken aback by this. So, Rasa created the Orcans. What does that mean? What am I? We're just playthings, just her objects to control and do whatever she wants with?
Seeing Junk's increasing anger, Adeline puts her hand on his arm and gently squeezes.
Junk is calmed by Adeline's touch. Chance, Can Rasa be destroyed?
You stand at the edifice of where Shaline cast aside her perceived weakness and became Rasa. Within, you will find 5 altars. 3 of these altars burn in covenant with her chosen creatures. Each can be extinguished by cutting out the heart from a vessel of Rasa and feeding it to the flames.
And then what? What happens when each altar is extinguished?
It's believed that when all 3 of these altars are extinguished, Rasa's spell will be undone, and Shaline's 2 halves will reunite to her original form.
And the other 2 altars?
These are the altars she has placed there to be used by her vessels, the altar of divine gifts and the altar of divine change.
Junk is somewhat skeptical. This is all very valuable information. Why are you giving it to us?
It's an act of love. I want Shaline back. When she is back, I will have peace.
Junk takes a slight step forward towards him. Peace sounds nice. Junk bows his head as to say thank you.
Chance bows his head, and after he does this, he leaps off into the woods and fades away.
Rin's face becomes crestfallen, and without saying anything to the rest of the party, she wanders off into the woods a bit and then falls onto her knees in the snow and assumes a praying position. She's going to attempt to connect with Dark Shaline, despite having not being able to hear her whispers for so long. But she's so concerned with the idea of banishing her in any way that she wants to try and reach out to see if that is what Dark Shaline wants, or if she needs to put a stop to it.
A breeze whips across Rin's face that's oddly warm given the frigid climate that surrounds her. You recognize this as the presence of Dark Shaline, and you can nearly hear her whispers, though you can't quite make them out. All you have to go on is raw emotion. The solemn longing is clear enough. Being made whole again is exactly what Dark Shaline wants.
She understands and very quietly weeps for having to lose somebody else so close to her.
Junk walks up behind her and very cautiously puts his hand on her shoulder. What would you have us do?
Rin doesn't say anything. She stares at the ground for a little bit, and then she looks over her shoulder at Junk, and she still doesn't say anything, but from her gaze, Junk knows.
Junk nods. Loud and clear, Silent Sister. And he turns and heads back towards the party.
Rin takes another beat, uses her traveler's cloak to wipe the streaks of tears off her face, and then follows after.
As Rin makes her way back to the others, she finds that Orny has met her halfway. Unusually sympathetic to her emotions, he holds out a handkerchief that he has kept dry and clean from Sansi village.
So, despite Rin having these streaks of tears down her face, she sees that gesture, and for the first time since traveling with all of you, she smiles faintly and accepts the offer and wipes the tears from her cheeks.
Well, let's head in.
There's something you should know. I believe Junk read the note that I found on my would-be assassinator. There's a champion of Rasa inside of this temple, Ugu-ta, who I was being brought to be a part of the sacrifice.
Junk looks at her a moment, and you can see the wheels turning in his head. They're working overtime. I see. Well, let's not let this champion of Rasa down. Let's bring in the sacrifice. I am a vessel of Rasa, after all. I will bring you in, and we can walk right up to this Ugu-ta, and together we can strike with surprise.
What about the rest of us?
You can follow from a distance and listen for trouble. But when we approach Ugu-ta, it has to be just the 2 of us. Vessel, he gestures to Rin, and sacrifice.
I mean, with the mark of Rasa, it might work. How do I know this isn't just another branch of the plan to sacrifice me to Rasa?
You don't know. And you can't know. You have to take my word. Trust me, if I could show you my soul, I would.
All right, well, I am inclined to trust you despite a history of that not working out for me. But with Dark Shaline's existence in the balance, I think there are times like this when chances need to be taken, regardless of these things.
I do have another idea of how to ease your concern, but it will take one more request of your trust. He puts his hand out. May I see your weapon?
Really?
Really?
Go with it, Rin.
She very tentatively puts it in your hand.
Junk takes Rin's rope dart, and he slowly and carefully uses the rope itself to very loosely tie her hands together as if she's a prisoner, but with just enough slack for her to slip out. And then he conceals the bladed tip of it inside of his palm, with the intent that when shit hits the fan, she will have her weapon on her and at the ready. Is this okay?
Yes.
This way you'll be just as dangerous as usual. He smiles at her.
If she asks about the person who's supposed to be bringing me in, her name is Shuri and she died on the river. And take this note. She gestures at her pocket.
He takes the note.
For proof to her.
Got it. Junk looks to each of the party members confidently, then he turns and guides Rin towards the entrance.
We'll be close. Please be careful.
May Dark Shaline bless us all.
It's a declining ramp into the Sanctum, and as you walk, the bright light of snowy outdoors makes way for dim candlelight. When the ramp opens up into a room, the very first thing you notice is a ebony statue of Rasa. Large and lifelike, you think that at first it might be Ugu-ta, but the room is otherwise empty. Beyond it, on a back wall, are two mounted boxes with holes in the center. To your left and to your right are a pair of heavy stone doors.
No sign of this unvanquished champion.
We might not be all the way inside the temple yet.
I want to roll for 6 sense.
Uh-huh.
An 11.
You don't sense anyone.
Here, just don't go far and stay alert. Junk places the blade end of her weapon in her own hand so that she can move freely. And then he begins to examine the rest of the room, and I'm going to roll perception.
Okay.
It's a 17.
Upon further inspection, the door to your left is labeled in gold paint, Hall of Lies, while the door on the right reads Hall of Truth. Behind the ebony statue in the center of the room, a sun mosaic crosses the floor and up the back wall. The mounted boxes are cast in tarnished metal. The left one reads light, the right one reads dark.
Hey, Scampersan.
Yeah, boss?
Hop outside and signal to the others to come on in.
Sure thing, boss. They'll love this beautiful temple.
So Scampersand runs up the ramp to find the others outside. He sees that Adeline has given Orny a boost to the top of the building to see if there's a skylight in the dome. There's not. From this vantage point, Orny can see Scampersand run out. Matson, who is the closest, can see that the little squirrel is giving effusive arm gestures, telling him to come inside.
Hey, look, it's Scampersand.
What's he gesturing about? Adeline, help me back down. And he holds out his arms again to be let down by Adeline.
She helps Orny down.
Should we be concerned that this rodent of Rasa is luring us into her temple moments after Junk just told us to stay out?
He might be a servant of Rasa, but he obeys Junk, and Junk could be in trouble. So let's go.
As the rest of the party arrives in the entrance of the temple, Junk greets them. No Ugu-ta yet, but we've got lies. He gestures to the door. Or truth. He gestures to the other one.
I think, given our situation, I prefer the truth. He reaches for the knob on the truth door, but it is locked.
So Adeline walks to the back where the holes are. She first studies the sun mosaic and then walks over to the hole that says light. She puts her hand in and feels around.
You feel that there is a key on a hook inside.
Adeline, feeling a key, tugs on it to pull it out.
As she removes this key, she discovers that there were sharp blades inside that she couldn't feel on the way in. When she withdraws her hand gripping this key, her wrist is bleeding, and she's taken 1 point of HP damage.
Oof.
Adeline, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. I have this key.
Oh, well, good job.
Adeline walks over to the closest door labeled Truth and searches for a keyhole.
There is indeed a keyhole in the door of truth.
She considers putting this key in this keyhole, but then she thinks more about what she's heard about Rasa and changes her mind and walks over to the door of lies and tries to find the same keyhole.
Yes, there's also a keyhole there.
Adeline turns to face the group. Any thoughts?
I shrug my shoulders.
I think this is the right decision because it is in the light, the bright of day, that all lies become visible to us.
Wow, that was really deep.
Adeline shoves the key into the Hall of Lies door.
With a click, the door unlocks.
I very carefully and quietly open the door, just enough to peer in, and I want to roll for perception. 10.
You find a square room roughly the same size as the lobby. However, this room is better lit with sconces on the side walls. There's a door to your left obstructed by a foreboding sight. You count 6 nooses hanging in a row from the ceiling. There's also something written, large and chaotically, in what looks like white chalk on the black stone floor.
She tries to make out what it says from where she's standing.
It says, "I don't like broken toys, but I'll take your lives. The weight of 4 will break the lock. Or is that just a lie?"
It looks like the coast is clear, but this is definitely unsettling. She gestures for everyone else to join.
Oh, this place is not as well decorated as the first room. Although, dare I say, those hanging nooses are very haute couture.
Junk walks into the room completely unaware that he's stepping all over this poem, and he starts examining the nooses in the back of the room.
And you see that the nooses are attached at the ceiling to various cogs that fit together with a mechanism. Altogether, it convinces you that the nooses play a part in unlocking the door that they dangle in front of.
Since I have a proficiency in poetry, could I roll to poetry? Could I roll for
Roll
poetry?
to poetry? Yeah. Sure.
Damn.
Critical poetry!
Cool poetry.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that in total is +2, so 22.
After spending her life in servitude to Doran Pentagrath, Rin became quite familiar with prose, plays, and poetry.
Nice.
The work in Doran's library taught her much about composition and intent, while the work in Doran's personal portfolio oddly taught her a lot about identifying clues regarding the author's personality. What stands out most in the scrawled poem is the phrase, "I don't like broken toys," which feels like the kernel of truth in this otherwise hall of lies. And it stands to reason that determining what's a toy to the author is the key to this puzzle's solution.
Looking at this poem and attempting to decipher it, I think this first line is definitely something we need to pay attention to. And I'm trying to think of, to Rasa, what a broken toy would be.
Maybe it's me.
What do you mean?
I'm her toy. You heard the spirit outside. Rasa created the Orkans. I'm an Orkan.
Okay, but even if that's true, it says the weight of 4 will break the lock.
Or is that just a lie? I mean, that's what it says on the ground.
Junk walks towards the nooses and grabs the third from the left and begins to put his head through it.
Wait, Junk, it just says it needs your weight. Couldn't you just use your hand?
If we've learned anything from Rasa, it's that she behaves with abject cruelty. I doubt these nooses are here for any reason than to be used how they're intended.
Orny's right. I'm not going to break hanging by my hands.
Matson pulls out his dagger in case he has to cut Junk down at any moment.
Junk pulls the noose tight.
The moment this happens, the sound of stone against stone signals a trapdoor opening beneath Junk's feet. In the dark pit below, the headless skeletons of adventurers who came before lie in a ghoulish pit, their final resting place. The party looks on in horror as the rope tightens. Tears form in Junk's face, and he's clearly in an immeasurable amount of pain.
Matson readies his blade. He's about to cut the rope to save Junk.
Junk puts his hand out in front of Matson like, don't you dare.
Suddenly, the rope lurches. Raising Junk higher, the trapdoor slides closed. The rope snaps and drops Junk to the floor. When the severed noose reaches the mechanism, it triggers the clanking of a chain, which raises the stone door that leads to the next passageway.
Junk, you all right?
Junk is removing the rope from his neck. Yeah, Yeah, I'm good. I'm all right. Thank you for listening to me, Matson. Now, will you help me up? I nearly died again.
Matson grabs his hand and pulls him up.
I don't know how much farther we have, but perhaps we should reassume our plan or disguises, for a lack of a better term, in case Ugu-ta waits for us on the other side.
Good idea. Junk reaches back out for the blade end of her weapon. He conceals it and then reestablishes their prisoner scenario once more. He looks to the others. Where will you be?
If we hear signs of trouble, we'll be right behind. And you know, Rin, I'm going to say words to you that probably no one has ever said to you before. Boy, studying poetry really came in handy in your life.
Well, I think we're all very surprised that Junk was the actual one who found the true solution to it. So,
Great job, Junk.
And with that, Junk leads his faux prisoner to the next room.
okay, I'll go ahead and roll for perception as we enter the room. It's a dirty 20.
As you enter this passageway, you get the sense from its curved shape that the Hall of Truth on the other side of the Sanctum would have exited on the other end. About halfway down to the left, there is an opening that emits the amount of light that you would expect from a main chamber. However, out of the corner of your eye, you can sense the movement of a single ant. It's ahead of you, and it's just turning the corner into this illuminated opening. You fear that it's an agent of Rasa, and that it previously saw your interactions in the Hall of Lies.
We have to kill that ant.
What? What ant?
Junk barely catches a glimpse of this ant as it turns the corner.
Oh, damn it. Oh, should we follow him?
Yeah, he might be returning to Ugu-ta.
Junk swiftly guides Rin towards the corner that the ant went around.
And in peering into this room, you find that it is indeed the main chamber. There are two large altars on either side of the room, but you can barely focus on the surroundings, because casting a long shadow standing in the center of the room is a full Orcan female. She's an imposing figure. She's 7 feet tall, with her musculature evident in her minimal barbarian-style armor. There are two short spears crossed on her back. Black and red war paint shadows her eyes. Adding to her height is a slick, long black high ponytail that crowns her otherwise clean-shaven head.
Who do we have here?
My name is Junk, Vessel of Rasa, and I bring with me the sacrifice. And he pulls Rin forward into the room aggressively.
I see. But you are small and pale. Who fathered you?
Junk snarls at her and ignores the question. Rasa will be pleased with this one. She's one of Dark Shaline's.
Wait. It's you, isn't it? Son of that traitor Dula. The abomination. The half-Orcan. How incredible. You survived the slaughter Rasa ordered on that village to punish your disgusting human-loving mother. How weak she truly was.
Junk remains still, suppressing his rage.
Even more, how hilarious that you would become a vessel of Rasa after all that. Seems the human side of you just isn't enough for your true Orcan heart.
Yes. If there's anything I've learned during my time with the humans, it's that they're pathetic, weak-willed, and lost. I was cleansed in the fires of that raid, and I have embraced the better of my halves. He points to the blood-stained Orcan badge he recently put on his pauldron. Which is why, to repay Rasa, I've brought this. And Junk aggressively throws Rin forward.
When Junk pushes her forward, Rin, in a pseudo-dramatic way, takes the hit and feigns falling to her knees to sort of add to the effect of helplessness.
And as she does, she notices that that ant is right below her, and it's making its way back to Ugu-ta.
In that split moment of perception, she attempts to crush it on her way down with the outside edge of her clasped hands.
She indeed squishes the ant. Ugu-ta notices this action immediately, and she looks down at Rin.
Oh, that's a shame.
Ugu-ta walks forward and nonchalantly kicks Rin aside before bending down to pick up her ant.
My familiar, gifted to me by Rasa. Agent 3 billion 007. A useful soldier. I see you have a gift of your own in this squirrel. What is its name?
Chunk looks over to Scampersand, worried for him.
He's called Scampersand.
Scampersand. Well, you see, this altar here is a wonderful thing. The altar of change. You may want to consider your Scampersand for its blessing.
And with that, she drops the body of 007 into the altar on the right side of the room.
So, Half-Orcan, I take it we are to sacrifice our silent sister here at the altar of divine gifts and share in its rewards together as Orcan brother and sister?
Yes, what sort of gifts do you think Rasa will give us?
Well, even greater gifts than come from the altar of change.
Punctuating this statement, an oversized insect leg pulls itself out of the altar of change. Then another. Then a terrifying head with clicking mandibles. In the place of Ugu-ta's dead everyday ant is now a very much alive, dire queen pyre building ant. At 5 feet long, it's clearly a deadlier ally than she had before.
Beautiful. Now Scampersand should fulfill his potential as well, shouldn't he?
Junk looks over to Scampersand, not wanting any harm to come to him, nor wanting him to become this monster, and he tries to think quickly.
Truly. And in time he will. But such a gift he doesn't deserve right now, for he's being punished for failing me.
I am? What did I do, boss?
And his ears go back.
Junk ignores him, absolutely heartbroken.
I see.
Ugu-ta pets the head of this just disgusting looking giant red ant, and she walks towards Rin again, and this time withdraws a knife from her boot.
So, shall you cut out her heart or shall I?
I'll be the one to do it. She's my sacrifice. I brought her here.
He shoots Ugu-ta a look and walks in front of Rin, still concealing the blade end of her rope weapon in his palm.
I deserve the glory her death will bring Rasa.
I'm going to need you to roll a deception check.
That's a 12.
So Ugu-ta looks at you and chuckles to herself.
It's a shame your mother didn't have your strength.
She turns the blade and hands it to you.
Go ahead.
I want to roll a sense motive. It's a 7.
She doesn't care who does the sacrifice as long as it's a vessel and it's in the name of Rasa.
Junk takes the blade from Ugu-ta with his left hand, and as he's turning back to Rin, with a sudden burst, he drops her rope dart, rotates the dagger in his hand, swiftly turns back and tries to stab Ugu-ta in the side of the throat.
Oh!
Junk surprises Ugu-ta, and he sinks this sacrificial dagger right into the side of her thick neck.
Yeah.
She gasps and clutches her wound, bracing herself against the altar of divine gifts.
As she's leaning back and Junk is pushing the knife into her neck, he whispers to her,
Don't you ever speak my mother's name again.
Isn't that disappointing?
Ugu-ta takes her hand, now wet with her own blood, and she plunges it into the altar. A whirling red energy spirals up her arm as she's imbued with strength.
God damn it.
The sacrificial dagger pushes itself out of her neck, and it clatters on the tile floor as the wound in her neck heals.
Yes, Rasa. Bless me with your power, and I will dispose of them.
And I need Junk and Rin to roll for initiative.
I got 12.
I got a 4.
Ugu-ta must create distance in order to wield her twin spears. She does this by striking Junk with their wooden ends on the draw for only 2 damage before backing into a threatening on guard.
Junk is not very happy that his sneak attack essentially did nothing, and he snarls at her.
Well, all right. This way will be more fun anyway.
And it's Rin's turn to act.
What Rin's gonna do is use her attack, Get Over Here,
Okay.
which, if effective, will bring the enemy to me. And the intention here is to sort of force Ugu-ta to her, but also to have Ugu-ta's back to the door where Adeline and Matsun are waiting.
In order to achieve this feat, Rin would have to do an acrobatic roll to get to the other side of Ugu-ta. So give me an acrobatics check to see if you can do that.
That's a 16.
Nice.
Yes.
Wonderful. Rin does an amazing picture-perfect military shoulder roll into a position so that she's facing the entrance of the room as opposed to with her back against it.
And then this is to hit 7.
Rin unleashes her rope dart. It cuts into Ugu-ta's flesh right above her elbow, taking 5 of her HP. Rin then pulls with great strength to turn Ugu-ta around so she faces away from the room's entrance.
Hearing the commotion, Adeline peeks around and quickly draws her bow and aims a Hydra poison arrow at Ugu-ta. Okay, so that's 12 damage at a critical fail.
Adeline turns into the opening and fires her arrow, or rather, she lobs her arrow up and over so that it lands in the altar of change with a sad little plunk. As it is not an agent of Rasa, it does not reemerge in a frightening new form.
No.
Ugu-ta does not hear or see this transpire, but the Dire Queen pyre-building ant does, and it scuttles towards you to defend its master.
Oh, shit.
Just as Adeline ducks back into the hallway, the ant locks its mandibles around her ankle and bites down hard for 8 damage.
Damn.
It will maintain its hold until Adeline escapes.
Someone get this thing off of me.
Matsun, seeing the great pain that Adeline is in, is going to attack this fucking ant. Oh boy.
Who's with us today?
I guess the sight of this horrifying creature scared Matsun because he had a 1.
Yeah, Orny and Matsun are both stacked in the hallway. They are both invested in freeing Adeline. So just as Matsun readies his knife, he nearly cuts Orny, who leaps in front of him and brings his cudgel down upon the ant's head for 10 damage.
Oh,
Nice.
The ant releases Adeline and retreats backwards, though it is still blocking your way into the main chamber.
Ugh, thank you so much, bloody ant.
And now it is Junk's turn.
Junk grabs his warhammer off of his back. He stares Ugu-ta right in the eyes, and he lunges at her with an overhead swing, but he's purposely aiming past her with the intention of smashing the altar of divine gifts behind her.
Yeah, that'll be an accuracy roll.
8.
The Warhound strikes the ceramic basin of the altar with precision, spilling water onto the floor. A whirl of wailing howls accompanies the clattering of shards, as if Rasa herself is lamenting the loss of a sacred object.
How dare you!
Rasa's given enough gifts.
You are a fool.
In an act of utter contempt, Ugu-ta attacks with both spears, connecting with Rin and Junk on either side, with downward slashes that carve lines of blood across her torsos for 10 damage each. And it is Rin's turn.
I'm going to try and pull in my weapon to start charging.
For which attack?
It's called Silent Meteor.
Ooh.
So Rin releases her rope dart from Ugu-ta and does a backwards roll into a crouched position. She charges her silent meteor, glaring at Ugu-ta with intense focus, drawing on the spirit of Dark Shaline. And with that, it's Adeline's turn.
Okay, so Adeline has a lot of adrenaline pumping, so much so she's ignoring this awful wound that has definitely discouraged her for the moment from using her bow and arrow. Instead, she's going to whip out her priest rod, which is enchanted with unrelenting force, and she's
Nice.
going to aim it at this giant ant. 4.
Pushing it back with force makes it collide with the first object in its path, which in this case is Junk.
Oh.
So Junk takes 2 damage, unfortunately, and the ant takes 4 before it scrambles to its 6 legs. It turns its attention back to the party members in the hallway, and Adeline, Matsun, and Orny must roll to defend themselves.
20.
4.
The ant takes in air, and a warm glow forms on either side of its face. When it expels its breath, a massive plume of fire heads into the hallway.
What?
Orny dives out of the way. Matsun dives out of the way. But poor Adeline is too slow and takes the brunt of the attack for 8 burning damage against her.
Ugh.
And it's Matsun's turn.
Matsun is going to try again going after this ant. That's 15 or 3 and 9.
Matson rolls into the room and completes his action by stabbing into 007's face for 12 damage. Meanwhile, Orny reaches into his bag and successfully finds a healing potion to hand to Adeline.
Adeline takes it very happily.
And she regains 6 hit points. And now it is Junk's turn.
Junk with full attention on Ugu-ta and pure rage built up inside of him, pulls his warhammer back, and he's going to go for a good old trusty rage wind. That's an 18 for 13 with a chance to stagger.
Junk strikes percussively against Ugu-ta with 4 turns, hitting 13 damage, 13 damage, 13 damage, 13 damage, and staggers her so that she is not going to be able to assault in this next turn.
Yeah!
Nice.
Junk leans over her prone body. I am nobody's toy.
What do you think will happen to us if Rasa is no more? We're her children. We could cease to exist.
Ask me if I care. No, don't. Just it's hypothetical. Never mind. Fight me.
Well, she can't, and it's Rin's turn to unleash Silent Meteor.
Oh, and boy, will I. Rin will have been charging up that attack, swinging it around lasso-like above her head, gaining more momentum, and then she will bring it down on the prone Ugu-ta. 10, 12, plus 2, 14.
The dart propels itself forward with such speed that flames seem to fly from its sailing tip. It punches through Ugu-ta for 12 damage and pulls out, taking blood and viscera with it. Ugu-ta looks back at Rin with bravado.
Ah! Is that the best the Silent Sisters have to offer?
And it's Adeline's turn to act next.
Adeline feels a little bit better after drinking the healing potion, but not much. She, again, grabs one of her hydro poison arrows and aims for Ugu-ta. Not a 20 for 14 damage.
Adeline fires a hydro poison arrow in Ugu-ta's direction. Ugu-ta is still facing Rin, so this strikes Ugu-ta in her back, right below her neck for double damage.
Nice.
Hydro poison courses through Ugu-ta's veins. She looks back to Adeline, noticing you for the first time. She pulls the arrow from her back and sticks it in the leather strap of her breastplate.
Oh.
She's saving it for later.
Great. That's new.
And now I need Matson to give me a defensive check.
Here we go. 17.
Ooh.
Nice.
So the oversized ant begins to charge towards Matson, but Matson is ready for it. He pommel horses over 007 and lands athletically on the other side.
Nice.
And turns, ready to attack.
Yeah, I'm just going to straight up attack this thing. That is a natural 20.
Nice.
For 7 and 3.
Matson is now facing the ant's thorax in prime backstab position. Thus, he stabs into it with both blades for massive 40 damage into the back of this thorax. The ant hisses in pain, and in this moment, Orny runs in with cudgel in hand, sounded by the pitter-patter of his little footsteps. He withdraws a potion of Caltrop Burst, shoves it into 007's open, hissing mouth, and immediately ducks for cover. After a brief moment of confusion, the ant's head explodes with metal shards and ant goo in every direction. Ugu-ta is furious at the loss of her familiar.
No! My beautiful!
She tosses one of her spears at Orny with all of her strength. It hits him straight through the torso for 23 damage and pins Orny to the wall with authority.
Orny!
He is bleeding profusely. He is not dead, but he is losing consciousness. And now it is Adeline's turn to act.
Adeline, blinded with rage at the moment, whips out one of her fire beetle gland arrows and shoots at Ugu-ta. For accuracy, for 16 damage.
When Adeline fires her beetle gland arrow at Ugu-ta, she moves with a speed you're surprised she can still muster. She snatches the arrow out of the air, tosses it aside as she spins around, withdraws and tosses that same hydropoison arrow with the precision that she tosses spears.
What the?
The arrow strikes Adeline in her shoulder for 3 damage. Poison races through your veins, and you will take poison damage on your turn from here on out.
Yikes. Jeez.
God damn it, my own arrow?
After this, Ugu-ta turns to Junk and gestures to him for him to bring it to the best of his ability.
Junk accepts this challenge, brings his warhammer back, lunges forward for a big swing for armor break right down on her shoulder. That's a 14 for 10.
Junk notices as he swings his warhammer exactly how much Ugu-ta's bravado was masking her sustained injuries. The powerful end of his weapon connects with the side of her neck, which cranes and fractures as she falls limp to the ground.
Nice.
Ugu-ta, the unvanquished, rests unmoving and vanquished.
Junk drops his warhammer and immediately rushes over to Orny. He pulls the spear out of his chest and holds his hand over the wound and throws it aside. Orny, are you okay? He starts rummaging through his bag frantically, trying to find one of his healing potions.
Yeah, going through Orny's belongings is like a nightmare. You see orphan skulls and the Hand of Elmone, but Junk doesn't have the wherewithal at the moment to find a healing potion.
Adeline, Matson, help me. Which one is it?
I'm coming, Junk.
While this is happening, Matson kicks the spear away from Ugu-ta and pins his foot to her, making sure she doesn't try anything.
Adeline takes Orny's bag from Junk. He just gave me one. I think I remember what it looks like.
I'll need you to roll an investigation check to find the right potion.
6?
You find one that looks vaguely like the one you took during the fight.
I'm fairly certain this is it.
Junk grabs it from her, pops the cork open, tilts Orny's head back, and pours it down his throat.
Oh, come on, please.
Though barely conscious, Orny is able to drink the potion and swallow. His bleeding wound begins to clot, and he starts coughing and sputtering blood.
Kill her. Kill the... Ugu-ta is still... Orny, are you okay?
I'm gonna have a headache.
Junk kisses his forehead and then turns around and walks back to Ugu-ta with fucking vigor, picks up her own spear that Matson had kicked towards where he was with Orny, and lunges the spear between her ribs.
Careful. You might need her heart.
All right, how do we do this?
So Ren's just going to step forward without saying anything and pick up the sacrificial dagger off the ground and proceed to attempt to cut out Ugu-ta's heart.
Junk twists the spear to give Rin the additional stability that she needs, holding Ugu-ta's body in place. And he looks over to Scampersand and maybe accepting for the first time that as long as he is under Rasa's control, that he doesn't actually have free will and that there's no actual reasoning with him. And he says,
Hey, Scampersand.
Yeah, boss? Oh, is my punishment over? Do I get to go in the altar of change?
No, there was no punishment. Listen, Scampersand, I have something really important I need you to do.
Whatever you need.
Do you remember that statue of Rasa at the entrance of the temple?
Yeah, how could I forget? It's absolutely breathtaking.
Well, you see, this woman here, she was an enemy of Rasa, a traitor. And her people are on their way here to destroy this temple.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah. And so I need you to go stand guard by that statue. I need you to stay out there and keep a lookout so that I can see when they come.
Sure thing, boss. Wow, they're going to be sorry they messed with us.
Scampersand leaps from you and scurries off the way that you guys came.
just before Scampersand turns the corner through the doorway, Junk calls out,
"Hey, Scamp!"
Yes, boss?
Junk takes one hand off of the spear to tip his bowler hat at him.
Scampersand tips his top hat in response and exits from the doorway.
I look over to Adeline and I'm like, it's really a shame that men never learn to address their real feelings.
It's so true.
Painful to watch.
It is.
A single tear rolls down Junk's cheek.
And as Rin's making observations about stunted emotions, she is making quick work of cutting out Ugu-ta's heart. She breaks the sternum and pulls apart Ugu-ta's ribs to reveal a large green heart. This is different than Junk's heart, which the party remembers from his sacrifice was the color of a human heart. Rin then continues to make the final cuts and removes Ugu-ta's heart from her corpse.
Once Junk sees that the heart is removed, he lets go of the spear and it remains sticking out of Ugu-ta's corpse. Junk swiftly walks to the back wall where the three altars are, turns to Rin and gestures for her to bring it over, and then I want to roll a perception for these altars.
Uh-huh.
That's a lucky 13.
The back of the main chamber has 3 small archways that each house an altar topped with an ornamental brazier that glow green with flame. The center altar has gold relief work detailed with a design of ants. The left features rabbits, and the right features squirrels.
Chance said that once we remove the spirit of Rasa from all of the ants, rabbits, and squirrels, then Rasa will be no more.
Neither will Dark Shaline. But I felt something from Dark Shaline. This is what she wants. And I have always and will always do her bidding, whether I'm truly a silent sister or not.
Well then.
And he takes the heart from Rin carefully.
For Dark Shaline.
And he holds it over the squirrel altar. He thinks to Scampersand.
You're free, little buddy.
And he drops it.
The heart is quickly consumed by green flame until the flame itself is extinguished. Smoke billows out from the altar in the form of hundreds of leaping and running squirrels. In the back of your mind, you hear Rasa crying in rage as you get the sense that you are releasing hundreds of thousands of squirrels from her direct control.
That's 1. He said we needed 3 vessels, right?
1 whole heart for each.
Junk moves his pauldron over. He throws off his wolf pelt and looks over to the party.
I shouldn't have this in the first place.
He snatches the dagger from Rin.
Junk, are you sure you want to do this?
Do what? Junk, no. What? You can't be serious.
Junk doesn't respond. He stabs himself in the chest.
Junk, no!
And cuts downward. And he begins to attempt to remove his own heart.
Junk, please let Lady Rin do this. You will pass out from the pain. I don't think you'll make it through.
He reaches the fingers of his hands into his chest and pulls the bone sideways, exposing his heart now to Ren, making complete eye contact to her. And he yells, "Take it!"
As your strength begins to waver, you look down and you notice that your heart is indeed green.
As Ren sees Junk's knees start to buckle out from under him, she does this eloquent movement, fits her arm underneath his back, holding up his weight, and uses her other hand to sort of steady the dagger and continue that motion, cutting out the arteries and sinewy bits around the heart to help him. And the whole time she's seemingly very unfazed and making direct eye contact.
Junk, in agony and on the brink of passing out, turns to Orny.
If I die here now, then that's fine. Really, truly. Though, I trust you, Orny.
Orny looks back at Junk and says, "You won't die here." Orny has pulled out the potion of resurrection that he made for him so long ago, and this time Orny is crying. He opens up a cork and he drops his own tears to add to the mixture.
Rin finishes cutting out the heart and she slowly places him gently onto the ground.
A mixture of green and red blood pools under Junk's body. He is still, and he appears dead.
She takes the heart very preciously and puts it into the altar of rabbits.
The green flames consume Junk's heart and extinguish, releasing plumes of adorable rabbits in black smoke, hopping away. Distantly, Rin feels like she can hear Rasa cry again, but more weakly this time. Orny staggers towards Junk, carrying his potion. He places his right hand on Junk's forehead. Adeline, Matson, will you tilt his head back?
We do so.
Yes.
As they do this, Orny opens Junk's mouth and pours in the potion.
Orny, I really hope this works.
It will. However, from Adeline's vantage, nothing appears to be happening.
How long does it take?
I've never timed it before. Usually I sing a song when I'm waiting for particularly tricky potions to take effect. I suppose this should take as long as the old children's rhyme.
Please don't, Orny.
Hey, dickle, dickle, the cow's getting fickle, the milk jug isn't full. To my surprise, when I look through its thighs, oh, look, it's starting. And looking at Junk's open chest, you see that a heart is beginning to take form. Pumping red blood with pink flesh, it's like the one he was born with.
Aww.
Bones and muscles stitched together, and the wound closes until it looks like it was never there to begin with. But Junk remains unresponsive.
What? Orny, what's wrong? Why isn't he waking?
Shh. There's one more thing. And with Orny's free hand, he reaches to the side of Junk's face very tenderly, and he slaps him as hard as he can. Junk's eyes flutter awake.
What happened?
Junk is frantically feeling his chest.
I'm okay. I'm alive.
How do you feel?
I feel.
He reaches out to Orny and he grabs the back of his head, pulling him in forehead to forehead.
Thank you. I didn't doubt you for a second.
He looks to Matson and touches his shoulder, then Adeline's cheek. And he looks up to Rin. Her hands are covered with the green and red blood.
Thank you. Now we find one more.
I suppose it's time for you to return the favor.
What? No, it needs to be a vessel of Rasa. You're not a vessel of Rasa. Your heart will do nothing.
I'm a vessel of Dark Shaline, and Dark Shaline is Rasa. If we've learned anything on this journey, we know that to be the truth.
Rin, I respect your desire to sacrifice, to bring Rasa as we know her to an end. But unless you have a green, beating vessel of Rasa heart in your chest, lost and regrown in her service, I don't believe you carry what is needed to extinguish the last altar. But you do have something incredibly useful that can be exploited to help all of Rymor. And that's your ties to Duke Regent Doran Pentagrath. I've been concocting this plan since learning of your true identity. If you and I head to Brayfrost alone, we can infiltrate the gnomes and collect information much easier than with Junk and Matson and Adeline, who stick out like sore thumbs. And I realize this is news for the three of you as well, but bear with me. I've discovered I can use the Hand of Elmone and the Onyx Skull in conjunction with the Ink of Directional Intent to take us directly to Filgarth. But arriving with the three of you in tow would be far too suspicious. But we can do the advance work and meet the three of you there. If we're lucky, there will be no battle at all waiting for you by the time you arrive. If we're unlucky, well, Rin and I will teleport into a cave again, in which case the three of you alone would become Rymor's last hope. I trust you all implicitly to carry out this quest that we've all grown so close to. What do you say?
Junk looks to Rin.
I quite literally trust Orny with my life. And so if he says you're needed with him, then I assure you it's the truth. Yes, we must reunite Shaline, but it won't matter if we bring her back to a world at war, or worse yet, a world destroyed.
And Junk takes Rin's hands.
You have my word. Bringing back Shaline will be my sole purpose for the remainder of my life. I guess my third life, technically. I will find another Vessel of Rasa, and I will finish what we began today. I promise.
But my heart is one with Dark Shaline's heart, and this is what she wants. And what if she's suffering and she's in pain and she longs to be this other deity that I'm not doing it. I'm not serving my purpose right now. I'm just waylaying it. I'm working selfishly on my own timeline with my own ego, and instead of prioritizing her will. That is, you must understand how difficult that is.
I do. Truly.
Another warm breeze brushes against your face, sweeping across the room and causing the torches to flicker. Then, 2 shadows start to creep across the floor from the extinguished altars in the form of a squirrel and a rabbit. They meet Rin, and when they touch her, it feels like an embrace. And for the first time since you first spoke, you can clearly hear Dark Shaline's voice.
My dearest Rin, my favorite daughter. It's okay, my child. This is bigger than me. So go. I assure you, you will never forget. I love you.
The shadows fall away and creep back to the altars.
Ren stands there silently for those few moments, and tears begin to quietly weep from her eyes again, and she solemnly nods and sort of whispers to herself, I love you too. And then looks to Orny. Okay, I'll do it. I'll go along with your plan. I have my mother's blessing.
Thank you, Rin. Before I depart, I would like to give this to one of you. And he reaches into his bag and he pulls out that creepy sundial he picked up from the shop in Sansi Village.
Junk reaches out towards it and takes it from him.
I don't like the idea of us splitting up, Orny.
I know, Junk. I did some research on this sundial the night that you all partied with Ven Farel. This object houses the spirit of Wenda Florian, and you can use it in battle much like you did with that blue crystal piccolo.
God, we didn't even talk about the piccolo. How cool was the piccolo?
It was really
Pretty
cool.
fucking cool.
I'm sorry, Andy. Go ahead.
This item would be better suited in your hands. From what I understand, you hold it out in direct sunlight and... just watch the murder ensue.
Okay, Orny, I'll do that. I'll watch it.
Paint a picture for me.
Junk puts it into his little pouch.
So, Rin, I'm ready to leave when you are. And he's holding the crystal skull and the hand of Almon.
I'm ready.
I got to choose it last time. Is there a token phrase that you would like to say as we go? We have to speak the same thing at the same time, otherwise we might end up in different places.
Oh,
Last time I said, Orny is a cool guy.
perhaps a line from a poem?
Oh, okay. Not as cool as Orny is a cool guy, but sure. What's the poem?
Well, the line is, do not go quietly into that good night.
Then, without further ado, away we go.
Wait, one last thing before you go. Rin.
Junk walks over to her.
I want you to have this. Just something to remember my promise. For it is my most prized possession.
Oh, no.
And the thing closest to my...
And he looks down and he smirks and says, heart. And he pulls out Kelber Selfin's ivory pube comb. And he extends it out to her.
Junk, you give the weirdest gifts, but I will take this to honor your sacrifice.
Junk hands it to her, and even as she's taking it, he's sort of hanging on to it a little bit too tight, like maybe regretting it, but ultimately he lets go of it and he says,
thanks again, Ren. And I truly hope that one day you'll be able to forgive me.
Orny places the hand of Almon atop the skull. He invites Rin to place her hands on the skull's sallow cheeks. On contact, blue runes light up across the surface, and he nods, ready to speak the phrase.
Do not go gentle into that good night.
And with that, a blinding blue shockwave emanates from the center of the skull, and when it's gone, so are Rin and Orny.
Wow.
Junk, emotional and fearful that he may never see Orny again, he's holding back tears, but he musters up a little more courage, and he looks to the party.
Well, let's get going, guys.
He picks up the wolf pelt and his warhammer, puts them back on, and he wraps his arm around Adeline and then begins to exit.
Junk, you've died twice.
You know what they say, third time's a charm.
No third times, please.
Before he walks out, Matson looks down and sees the spear that had stabbed Orny, and he picks it up and takes it. And then he turns and looks at the spot where Orny had just teleported, and he says, "Orny is a cool guy." And I walk away.
As Junk exits, he passes that ebony statue of Rasa again. Sitting on its shoulder is an ordinary squirrel. A tiny top hat has fallen, and it now rests at the base of the statue. When the squirrel sees Junk, it chirps, but it doesn't appear to recognize him.
Junk smirks at it and reaches into his pouch for what's left of that little bit of bread that Fenferal had baked for them, puts his hand out to feed the little squirrel with some bread.
The squirrel cautiously takes the bread from your hand, but then retreats the way squirrels do to eat it away from you.
Junk gently smiles.
A little scampersand. I never liked him.
That is a good enough place to end this very eventful chapter. Wow, what an absolute roller coaster.
I got teary there. That was intense.
It's a lot of endings. Things are endings. We only got 2 chapters left in our current campaign. This has been an absolute blast, guys. I freaking love this so much. Paul, what do we earn for our outing today?
Oh, you guys got... Ugu-ta was tough, and you guys walked away with 820 for defeating her and her aunt.
6470.
6,470. That is a level up, if I'm not mistaken.
It sure is.
So we are now all level 4.
Level 4.
Which means that be sure to listen to our roundtable in which we will level up before Chapter 9. That I'm very excited about.
Me too.
Man, this was just an absolute blast. Thank you so much, Havana, for joining us, for donating this large chunk of your day to us. This was such a fun chapter, and I'm so personally gratified that the Junk Rasa story has kind of come full circle. I got my heart back.
You got your real heart back.
I got like a pseudo frenemy now. Who's
frenemy is the correct word.
Yeah, but you know what though? But Junk made that promise. He is going to ensure that he reunites Rasa and Dark Shaline.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I want to see that spinoff.
Which one?
It's just a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's just a
Junk and Rin just
multicam in front of a live studio audience.
Reuniting.
Lots of Junk offering her disgusting things that she doesn't want.
I don't want that.
Just
I don't know
why are you giving me this dead rat?
Dirty wolf pelts and pube combs and the hat, which is never washed once and spilled with brow sweat. Anyways, that aside, thank you once again so much for joining us, Havana. Make sure you are checking out Havana on all social media at Havanarama. And spell Havana. Is it 2 N's or 1 N?
It's like the Capola Cuba or the Camila Cabello song. So Havana.
Oh, there you go. And on Twitch, you do live Twitch streams pretty much like every 5 days a week?
Yeah, 5 days a week. And that's twitch.tv/Vana, VANA. And I just do variety games and of all different kinds. And then you can also catch me over at Saving Throw Show every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. in our 5th edition D&D game over there called Ironkeep Chronicles. And then I'm randomly over at Geek and Century and Alpha. The most recent RPG I did over there is called Overlight, so you can catch that on the VODs or on Alpha if you're subscribed there, or I believe on YouTube.
Yes, please check out everything that Havana does. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. I really hope you had a good time.
I really did.
And with that said, the business, make sure you are following at D&DW Pod on all social media, and check out D&DWpod.com. There's a bunch of fun bonus stuff there, from art to maps to bonus audio episodes, stuff like us shopping and us reading erotic plays. All sorts of random silliness that you're not going to get in your traditional podcast feed is all over at D&DWpod.com. Hey, you know what else you can do at D&DWpod.com, guys?
What's that, Jake?
What?
You could check out the shop and buy some awesome merch. It's a great way to support the show. There's some really cool D&DW inspired designs, as well as just some cool D&D inspired designs. Some really great shirts, all high quality stuff, because I'm a stickler for quality. I don't go for those cheap, shitty shirts. They're all really great, fantastic, comfortable, quite stylish, if I might say so myself. And it's a great way to support the show. In fact, it's probably the best way to support the show. Also, hey, if you have stuff that you want to tell us, if you have comments, concerns, questions, we'll chat with you during our roundtable episodes. While you're at dndwpod.com, simply click the contact button, and you can shoot us an email direct and, tell us your D&D stories. Tell us what you thought of episodes. Tell us what you thought of guests. Tell us who you want to be future guests. All the stuff that you do, all the things you say can be said at the contact page at dndwpod.com. And last but most certainly not least, please leave us a rating and review on iTunes. You can be honest. You don't have to give us a 5-star. I mean, we want you to give us a 5-star and tell us that it's the best thing you've ever heard and you've had the most fun that you've ever had and that we're all your favorite people. But if you're just like, hey, 1 star, not my cup of tea, then
don't comment.
I'm really surprised that you listened this far, frankly. With that said, Paul Bianchi, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people.
Havana Mahoney.
See you later, y'all.
Matt Hinksman.
Sayonara.
Alexandra Oy.
Au revoir.
And I am Jake Lloyd. On behalf of everybody here at D&DW Pod, we will see you next quest.
It's Dragon Wagon.
Hey, we want to extend a huge thank you to all of the people who lent us their voices to Chapter 8. Andrew Mena and Noella Mabry, who reprised the roles of Fenfrel and Nora in 8.1, as well as Veronica Wiley, returning as our favorite demon goddess, Rasa and Dark Shaline in 8.2. And last, but certainly not least, a D&D newcomer, the incredibly talented Michelle Specht, who voiced Paul's NPC Ugu-ta. Be sure you're following Michelle on Twitter and Instagram at Michelle Specht to see all of the other great work she does.
That's absurd. She's prone. She can't.
Yeah.
She's prone. She can't do anything.
No.
She's died. She's dead.
Dead.
Her heart fell out on accident.